the golfing rabbi. It was a certain rabbi who was an avid golfer. He played at every opportunity, and he was so addicted to the game that if he didn't play, he would actually come down with withdrawal symptoms. One Shabbat, Purim, like today, the rabbi thought to himself, what's it going to hurt if I, sneak out during recess and play, or after the service and play a few rounds? Nobody will be the wiser, and I'll be back in time. And sure enough, at the conclusion of the service, the rabbi snuck out of the synagogue and headed straight for the golf course. Looking down at the scene were Moses and God. And Moses said, look how terrible a Jew on Shabbat, and a rabbi besides. And God replied, watch, I'm going to teach him a lesson. Out on the course, the rabbi stepped up to the first tee. When he hit the ball, it careened off a tree, struck a rock, skipped across a pond, and landed in the hole for a hole-in-one. Seeing all this, Moses protested, God, is this how you're going to teach him a lesson? He got a hole-in-one. Sure, said God, but who's he going to tell? So, the next one is called President Bush and New. And not the new like N-E-W, but the Jewish new N-U, meaning so. When President Bush was at the White House, he was very curious about the Jewish people and how they knew everything before he did. So he called the FBI and asked them to figure it out. About a week later, they came back and said, Mr. President, the Jews have something called Shabbat. They meet each other in the synagogue, and they use a code. They sit, they pray, and there is a word that is the key to a secret. And the word is new. N-U, new. When one says to another, new, the other tells him everything, every bit of news. And President Bush wanted to see this for himself, so the FBI dressed him up like a Hasid. They taught him to read from the right to the left of the Siddur, and President Bush arrived at a synagogue on Shabbat, on Purim, and he sat beside a man named Yossi. And he waited for a moment, and he turned to the Yossi and he said, new? And Yossi answered quickly, shh, don't talk now, Bush is coming. Okay, I don't know what's funnier, the joke or the laughter. One day in Sushan, 3 men had a debate about God. It was a surgeon, an engineer, and a politician were arguing as to which profession was older. Well, argued the surgeon, God created Eve from Adam by a form of surgery, so I am sure that mine is the oldest profession. No, said the engineer, before life began there was a complete chaos, and it took an engineer to create some semblance of order from this chaos, so engineering is older. But, chirped the triumphant politician, who do you think created the chaos? Okay then. My last one for today, the fourth and last one, is about an interfaith celebration of Purim. A Catholic priest and a rabbi were chatting one day at a Purim celebration when the conversation turned to discussion of job descriptions and promotions. What do you have to look forward to in a way of promotion in your job? Asked the rabbi. Well, I'm next in line for the Monsignor's job, replied the priest. Yes, and then what? Asked the rabbi. Well, next I can become an archbishop, said the priest. Yes, and then? Asked the rabbi. If I work real hard, do a good job as an archbishop, it's possible for me to become a full bishop, said the priest. Okay, then what? Asked the rabbi. And the priest, beginning to get a bit annoyed, replied, Well, with some luck and real hard work, maybe I can become a gardener. And then push the rabbi, and the priest really starting to get mad now, and he says, well, with lots and lots of luck and some real difficult work, and if I'm in the right places at the right times and play my political games just right, maybe, just maybe, I can get elected pope. And the rabbi replied, yes, and then what? Good grief, said the priest. What do you expect me to become, God? And the rabbi said, well, one of our boys made it. Thank you. So those were new jokes. New? Okay. And now we have I've got to put my mask on for this. We have a short Purim Shpiel, revised for 2021.
Oh, gosh.
My wife's favorite.
No. No.
I'm going to do this from here. Actually, nobody can see me. Rabbi Andy, move over here to this corner. You have your mask on. Bring your paper with you. Because the people on the Zoom won't be able to see us. What do you want? Kind of right there. That's good.
Good evening.
Yeah, sorry, next screen. That's it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special edition of the Shushan Journal. Today's investigative report, Showdown in Shushan. I'm your host, Dr. Canterson, and this is not fake news. The story we have for you is quite fascinating. Most of our Jewish viewers have heard the story of Purim from the reports in the Bible in the book of Esther. What we have today is an uncovered, overlooked piece of the story. We call it Showdown in Shushan. And to help us put this story all together is the top investigative reporter, Saul Spicerwitz.
Thanks, Tucker. Before I begin, let me identify the key players in the story. There is Vashti, the soon-to-be deposed queen, and somewhat of a whiner. Also, there's the king, Ahasuerus.
Gesundheit.
I didn't sneeze. Anyway, the king here has a desire for having his own way all the time. And beautiful women in their bathing suits parading around him. And then we have Haman.
Boo!
Right, customary to say boo when we hear his name. His deputy minister to the king, a descendant of Amalek, yuck, and hater of all Jews. He has a thirst for power and an unusual craving for three-cornered pastries. And there's Mordecai.
Yay!
A nice Jewish guy, cousin of Esther, or uncle, as you would have it, loyal to the king, but obedient to the one and only God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then there's Esther, and picked by the king to be the new and improved queen. TV program, Desperate Housewives, and refuses to be disturbed. And in true Elvis Presley fashion, an explosive, angered king, through his servant, informs the rebellious Vashti, don't step on my blue suede shoes, and he tells her, get on out the door, girl, and has her thrown out of the palace. Vashti then puts on a mask and vows, I'm going to get you, sucker. Now, out of the job as queen, the stage is set for her new alliance with Haman, the power-hungry minister of the king. And she offers her insider's expertise as Haman's public relations strategist. She will advise him on how to gain more power and eventually run the kingdom. And their big meeting starts off rather well. Vashti brings coffee, three-cornered pastries that Haman devours, and he says, when I take over, I'll name these after me. Hamantosh. And she explains to Haman that he needs to get rid of the riffraff around here, especially those Jews. And Haman is really impressed. Unfortunately, Vashti misreads Haman's enthusiasm and romantically plays up to him and starts to call him her boo. Let's do the same. We can boo when we hear his name. Let's try it out. Haman!
Boo!
Haman!
Boo!
Haman!
Boo!
Okay, back to the story then. Haman
Boo!
is enraged and he tells Vashti, look, I'm only turned on by power, honey. And he tells her, hit the road, Jackie. Apparently, that was it for Vashti. She's out the door.
So Saul, is Haman successful with what he has learned from Vashti?
Well, Tucker, for a while. You see, in her anger, she left without warning Haman about Mordecai the Jew.
And the rest, as we say, is history. Thanks, Saul. And if you want to find out what happened after the Shoshan blowout, you can read the whole Megillah in the book of Esther. Oh, and don't forget to catch our new show, the Mordecai Power Hour on Shusmax. This has been Shushan Unfiltered on the Locks Network. And I'm your host, Tucker Canterson, Shabbos from Shushan.
Yay!
Yay!